TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channels, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a full house here, Bob. We've got the legendary Jeff here too, Bob.
That's right.
Yes.
It's working. And by the way, for everybody out there, let's wish Jeff, he just turned 85 years young. So happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Yeah, why,
Look at
thank
that,
you.
guys. What a rock
Few months.
star.
How did I not? I didn't even know it was his birthday. How did I miss this?
It was a headline in the Tribune. I don't know how you missed that, Todd.
Welcome to the channel. Happy birthday, Jeff. Guys, if
Thank
you
you.
don't know who I am, my name is Andrew. Next to me, we have Curtis. If you're a familiar visitor to the channel, Curtis has been on the channel a few times. Obviously, Jeff and Bob have, and we've had on the bottom here, Todd. Good to see you, brother. You've been on the channel a couple of times as well.
Yep.
Thank you for coming back, bro.
Oh, thanks for having me back. It's always great. Love the show.
Fantastic. I want to remind people too, folks, and we'll get to the people in the chat live, but I want to remind people, if you're watching on a replay, please, I'll have attached to this description a lot of things for you to go and find and click onto. One of the things will be a couple of links to purchase this outstanding book that we're going to spend a bit of time talking about, folks. And we'll also have Curtis, Jeff, Bob, and Todd's social media links as well, their YouTube channels and their Facebook profiles. If you could please go and give them a bit of support, that's exactly what we want to do here. It's about a collaboration. So if you can do that, I'll be grateful.
Thank you. And also, even if you haven't bought the book on Amazon, if you could please review it, good, bad, or indifferent. It really helps Jeff and I and the recognition of the book. The other shout out I want to mention, Andrew, is to Richard Orlando, a friend of the channel, a get well wish. He's home recovering from a heart attack, and we wish him all the best.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that, because obviously and clearly Bob to do that, so that's great. We didn't want to do that publicly because sometimes people just don't want to.
He'll probably get mad at
going
me, but,
on. So,
you know, what the hell?
yeah. Yeah. So Richard, if you're watching, brother, he's been on the channel. We'll links here as well. A very, very good friend of the channel. Very, very good friend to all of us. A Fleetwood Mac scholar and a Fleetwood Mac high-level fan.
Absolutely. His 3-volume book is a must for anybody who's into Peter Green, Danny Kerwin, Jeremy Spencer, Fleetwood Mac. It's a marvelous 3-book edition, and you can actually get it as an ebook too. So no matter where you are, you can get it.
Good.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling reading those books. It's like, how does he know all this stuff? It's unbelievable. Yeah, definitely get the books.
Yeah, a lot of research.
A lot of research.
And
our book on Amazon.
Do you know what's really interesting?
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Do you know what's really interesting about his 3 volumes and the work that he's done, guys? He's not a professional writer. He's done all that as a fan.
Right.
Remarkable.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have it right, Todd?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no, I've got the I've got the actual books. I mean, I'm not a fan of ebooks really. I like to have the real deal. So yeah, I got those right when they came out. It just blew me away. I can't believe the research he did on those. It's just like Bob said, anybody that's even remotely interested in the Peter Green era of Fleetwood Mac, you need those books without a doubt. And this book. That one too.
Some cool pictures in it, I heard. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, there's some guy that did a good job taking those pictures in there. I don't know, maybe we'll
Some
get
are
to
pretty
meet him
good.
sometime.
He's kind of a star right now, so be careful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to go see him tomorrow, and he's charging me $25 to get in his apartment.
Well, you know,
Wait,
gotta do
only
it.
25? He's charging me 50. Come
25
on. No.
Well, I'm the co-author, so I get a discounted rate.
No, and 25 to get out. That's
Yeah,
those are two separate-
he didn't tell me that part.
Well, he
Well,
didn't charge
Oh,
me.
man.
surprise.
Charged me, but I think I had to pay for lunch. I don't remember.
Yeah, that could be.
Uh-huh.
The other thing, as far as Peter Green goes, I just received this from Eric Korn, Volume 3.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, Andrew, I think you'll agree, tears in my eyes.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
I mean, speaking of Tone, Todd and Curtis. By the way, Todd, Curtis, did you meet at the events at all?
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Since you guys are going to be playing with each other in a
I
couple
was
months.
there, so I assume we met. No, we did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we met at both Space and at the chess events. So yep, for sure.
I can
Oh,
bring that up, Andrew. November 12th at Reggie's on the south side of Chicago, actually right around the corner from Chess, right, Todd?
Yeah.
We're having an
Yep.
event. Todd and Connie are our warm-up band doing some blues and some Peter Green and Danny Kerwin songs. And then Curtis and Chris Herman and Rob Herman, Chris Abgeron and Ricky Liontones, the Blues Crusaders, are doing a new set of Kerwin and Green and a couple
Other
surprises
songs.
too.
Yeah, surprises.
Yeah,
Well,
surprises.
we won't tell you what they are.
Curtis is going to play accordion. That's
Well,
Wow.
now you
Whoops,
just
sorry.
you spoiled it.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up with Todd and Curtis. Todd, have you ever played a hammer?
Yes, it's been years now, but yes, I have played them before. I've actually never owned one, but I've played several. I mean,
All right, cut him off. That's it. You didn't know.
no, beautiful guitars, obviously. Yeah, without a doubt.
Hey, Curtis, I want to put you on the spot since I'm I'm not a guitarist per se. What would set a hammer guitar apart from another guitar in its day? I know it's a hard question.
I just think it's all the handwork that went into it. First of all, we weren't mass producing instruments. These were
Right.
really small batches, and they were all hand done. And another thing is, it wasn't like a regular factory where people we took people off the street. I think almost every single person who worked there was a musician, either a guitar player or bass player, drummer or something. They were all musicians. So we treated things differently. We appreciated it a little differently. And the extra, especially when you're in the assembly and setup, wiring, that whole thing, and the department I was in the end, where I'm playing every single one of them, it makes a big difference, because you're not just setting something to a spec. You're setting the guitar that it'll play absolutely the best way and perfectly clean and everything else. So it's not just done by people who always ask me, what are the specs? What did you set this to? Was it, I don't know. It was all up to the individual, because every guitar is a little bit different. So it was all the handwork went in and that kind of love behind it. And they were all musicians working on something instead of just a big giant factory. So that was a lot of it.
Did you have like a specific thing you always, or did you just do a little bit of everything there?
Who, me personally?
Yeah.
I mean, I learned every process in the manufacturing, everyone. But I was originally hired as a guitar player to set up the first batch of 25 guitars. I came into the factory. They convinced me to come back, and the action was way up high, and the necks were bowed, and certain things like that. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can really change things because I'm a guitar player playing in bands at the time. And my thought was, like, if I was going to take this on stage right now and walk out, what would I do? So that's kind of what I did. I mean, I did all the early sunbursting, a lot of that assembly work, but then we had other people doing that, and I did wiring, I did spray and everything else. But then I took over and kind of created the whole setup area It was all me for a long time, and then I brought on a couple people, other musicians, guitar players, to help out in the setup booth.
And Todd, what you might not know is that Curtis back in that day was in a band with Chris Herman.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I did not know that. Oh wow.
crazy. Yeah. So when we
He's
played
part of the
Space,
Blues Crusaders.
when we played Space, that was the first time we'd gotten together probably in over 40 years.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
You know. So,
Wow.
kinda
So
fun.
what? So up until about what year? What would you say was the last one you actually worked on? Year as far as a year?
Yeah, I can tell you exactly. March of 1997, when they moved from Arlington Heights to Connecticut.
Okay.
And I could have gone out there. I had a good offer to do it, but
Arlington Heights, Illinois, for those.
Yeah.
listening.
Illinois
Okay.
too, but decided not to for a number of reasons, and that was it. So everything before then, even all the custom ones that were coming out of, Wilmette, we had another little shop with Luthier and a couple other guys who some of the custom standards and stuff and other things like that. But yeah, so I guess from that would make it sometime in 1977 right up till 97. But before that, I was at Northern Prairie Music, which was a vintage shop that Paul owned. So I came out of high school. I was working there. I was teaching lessons
That's where we met.
and buying vintage guitars, buying and selling them and doing all that sort of thing. So I was there since like 1973, 4. So really,
And Jeff Curtis has known me that long, and he still talks to me, kind of.
sometimes I have
Doesn't
to
charge me.
if it comes up and it says Bob Schaffner, I go, oh, geez, I don't know. Maybe I'll answer.
Well,
Hey Tina, sorry folks, I gotta jump in. We've got Tina M Hurd in the chat. Good to see you. She's one of the admins on our Facebook group. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, Tina. Sorry
Hi,
to
Tina.
interrupt, folks.
no.
Yeah, nice to
highly
see you, Tina.
interruptible. I'm not to take away from your channel, Mr. Todd. But one thing, since you and Curtis are on, and I'll ask Jeff the same thing, although he might have jazz influences. And I know it depends on your genre, but what are some of your favorite guitarists? And I know, should we put Jeff Beck out of the mix?
Who are you asking, Todd? Go ahead,
I'm
Todd.
asking you and Todd and Jeff, because Jeff might have some favorite guitarists that we don't know about.
I have one that you probably
Go ahead,
may
Jeff.
not even know. There was and this guy goes back about one or two shades of guitarist. A guy named George Barnes, who was played in jazz groups, and then after at some time in his career, he just did all the rest of his work in studios. So the average person wouldn't know about him, but you can certainly hear him. And I'm not a guitarist, and I can't identify many guitarists, but he had a very I can't think of the right musical way to say it. He had a very percussive style, and if you heard it once, you'd recognize it all the times after, and you recognize it in a lot of the records. There have been records about the guys who played all the Stax sessions and the people who played. I can't think what's the hit factory in Detroit.
Motown.
Yep. Motown. Yeah.
Motown. Them groups of musicians you never out who made the rhythm sections better, and even I can't think of his name now. There was a guy at Chess who was a studio guitarist. You never saw his name, but I was looking at a picture I took of Chuck Berry in the booth listening to a thing, and there's another frame, and this guitarist is next to him, just listening, because these guys were backing up all the greatest artists.
What's like you were talking about with Motown,
So-
like Jim Jameson, the bass player, and I mean,
Right.
he's like Bruce Thomas's favorite bass player. I mean, people don't know, and Curtis, you helped me out. The woman bass player did with Beach Boys, or Todd, you know who I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. She has a book out.
I mean, Carol
Yeah.
King.
about all
Yes,
the-
Carol Kay.
Thank
Carol
you.
Yeah.
Kay, right.
See, us old guys can't keep our memories straight.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, for you, Todd, I mean, I know you love Jeff Beck, and Todd, I mean, not to blow your horn or blow your skirt up here, but you've played with some. I mean, you just played with somebody in Detroit.
Yeah, by Jim McCarty from it started out Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, and then formed Cactus and the Rockets, and there's a Hendrix album that it's been reissued in different titles over the years, but it was originally called Nine to the Universe, and it was just basically stuff that came out after he passed away, of like him jamming and stuff. There's a track on that album called Jimmy Jam, and it's Jim McCarty and Jimi Hendrix playing together, and Jim's become a great friend over the past several years, and periodically we talk all the time and whatnot, but periodically he says, you need to get out here to Detroit and bring your guitar. So I flew out there last Friday. Yeah, it's always a thrill to jam with him. I mean,
Yeah,
been
you should
doing it
check out the YouTube video. There's some great guitar playing there by you and Jim.
Yeah. Who is this guy
Yeah,
who just sent a message?
But Matt Guitar Murphy, he played a Hamer in the Blues Brothers, by the way.
Oh yeah, and I worked on that guitar for him. Set
Right.
it up. It was really for John Belushi.
I'll introduce you guys to Alan Garber. Alan Garber is a very good friend of the channel. He's like all of us. He's a music and a guitar fanatic. His interest and knowledge of music is remarkable. So it's always a pleasure to see Alan. He did a great podcast recently talking about Eddie Van Halen and some of the tricks that Eddie did over the years with Dweezil Zappa. And I've included that link in the chat if people want to go and follow that or listen to what Alan has to say. I'll include
cool.
Alan's channel links on the description too, because he's a very good friend of the channel. Sorry for interrupting, guys.
No, good shout out, because Matt Guitar Murphy played a
well, that's how I want to say. I
right?
was really proud of that and surprised, when the movie came out, that he picks that up in that scene in Ray's music.
Yeah, with
He
Aretha
picks
Franklin.
black Hamer, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's the guitar. So he played it. So that was kind of nice.
Is
Well,
Gerald Sims, does that sound familiar, Mr. Lowenthal?
I'm sorry.
Gerald Sims.
No, it's not
No?
familiar.
Okay. Somebody in the
Todd,
chat.
Todd, who else are some of your favorites that you really appreciated?
Well, I guess the Peter
okay,
Green.
okay.
Peter Green goes without saying.
Hold on, Todd.
Okay.
You're talking about the message. I can't
Yes.
read it because these are not prescription glasses. These dark glasses.
Those are his cool glasses,
That's right.
folks.
Thank you. These are very old,
Uh-oh.
but I style.
Go ahead, Todd.
No, like I said, Peter Green obviously goes without saying. Danny, that's why we're all here, really. But found out real quick as a kid listening to that stuff, thinking it was all Peter Green, and then real quick it was like, wait a minute, there's this other guy in this band. Well, two other guys actually, but Danny, right up there with Peter, of an influence of mine. But really, just any guys that really just kind of went their own and followed their own path, even what you'd call more, I guess, rock guitar players, for lack of a better term. But like Ronnie Montrose was huge for me. I've gotten to his wife Lisa is one of my best friends. I'm very close with Lisa, so that's really cool. And
I guess maybe one of the better questions would be, I mean, Ronnie Montrose would be a good one, because people wouldn't think of him, just like people might not think of Rick Derringer.
Right.
So I guess maybe the better question, aside from the obvious ones, what your and Curtis's, because I know Curtis has got a little eclectic people that he enjoys guitar with. And obviously my favorites are Peter Green and Danny Kerwin, but then again, I can appreciate somebody like Alan Holdsworth.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or Django Reinhardt, or
Django.
the classical guitarist John Williams, not the composer.
Yeah, I think for me, before I played guitar, my dad was a big fan of big band music, and we used to go. He used to take us as kids to see just about everybody because he knew everybody. And the guitar player that was in Guy Lombardo's orchestra named Ty Lemley was really interesting because he would play he had to play all these Lombardo songs, but I remember a couple of times seeing him warming up and doing some things, and we're just sitting out at tables, and phenomenal guitar player, could play anything. So that was before I even played guitar. But when I started, obviously I was listening to Jimi Hendrix and couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And I obviously, for me, my hero was Clapton. But I learned, from those 3 records, Clapton, Peter Green, and Mick Taylor. They were, another phenomenal guitar player. But I had so many influences. Johnny Winter was brilliant. Django Reinhardt was maybe my favorite of all time. Because here's a guy playing with 2 fingers and just playing the most amazing stuff. I have everything he ever did back in the 30s and 40s. So, but there are many. There are many. I had all sorts, because I've even got into modern, the Michael Schenker, Lee Roth, all sorts of guys, Eddie Van Halen, anyone. You kind of steal from everybody. You take something and you learn what their influences were, and then you go back and listen to something and say, hey, wow, he had a great idea there.
Except when you and Chris Herman talked to Alan Holdsworth with Tony Williams' Lifetime.
Well, that was ridiculous.
Except when you guys tell that story, because I don't think.
Well, I mean, we were in Chicago. I can't remember, Quiet Night. I'm trying to think.
It was a small club, yeah.
Yeah, and we saw. Okay, so he's playing the whole, Jeff Berlin on bass, right? I forget who was it. Tony Williams on drums? I forget.
Yeah, Tony Williams and Pasquale.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, and we were sitting there watching the whole show. And at the end, Chris Herman walks up to me and says, so did you get anything out of that? And I said, no, I have no idea. That didn't help one bit. And that's great. That's phenomenal. Because it's all, he's just,
well, that's after you were talking to him, correct?
That's just coming that's just coming off the top of his head.
Yeah.
There's no standard licks, no standard anything. It's just like a jazz saxophone. He's just playing. And so, of course, it's not going to help you at all. You can kind of figure out some of the chords, maybe changes, but as long as he knows the changes, he's just playing right off the top of his head, and it was just brilliant. So there's nothing you could steal, or there's no standard blues patterns or this or modes or anything. He's just.
And speaking of Eddie Van Halen, I remember at one of the Hamer jams too, him asking if anybody had a record player that played 16 RPM because he was trying to figure out what Alan Holdsworth was playing.
That's what I used to do back in the day. We didn't have, all this other stuff, tablature and all this other kind of crap. So that's how I learned so much stuff. You put it at 16 RPM. I'm trying to remember. I forget. It was like, there was a few guitar players like that where they played things really fast, put it at 16, and I can kind of make out the notes, and it worked out great that way. We actually had to work back when I was a kid.
Well, that's interesting that Curtis is bringing this up, because I teach during the week too, and I tell all my students that. I'm like, I know it's so easy now to just turn on YouTube and there's 20 guys showing you how, but I'm like, just put the song on and just try to listen to it. Oh, yeah. I think we all learned better that way back then. To me, I'm not like anti YouTube, but I think it's causing too many people to we have like clone guitar players now because it more than we ever did. And I think that's why, because no one's really using their ear or they're just going on YouTube and being like, yeah, that's it. And I don't think that's healthy personally, but.
That's a great point.
Well, that was the interesting thing is, Todd, because we developed our ear. We had to figure things out just by listening.
Right.
Developed a really good ear. And then later in college when I studied composition and theory and all this other. It's like, oh wait, that's what I was doing. So that's all those things I had to figure out. Jan Ackerman playing. Oh, that's what chord it was. That's what this was. You know, then I realized what was happening. But I did it
Right.
back. You know, so that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. It just seems like I believe it was Rick Derringer or something. I don't want to quote him exactly because it might not have been, but I'm pretty sure it was Rick Derringer that was saying something in a guitar magazine just a couple years ago about exactly what I just said. He said we have guys now, their vibrato sounds exactly the same, and he said that's why, because they're not learning the old-fashioned way. They're all just clicking on YouTube and taking the easy path, and all those stepping stones that seemed like they were a pain in the butt to get where you're going, that's learning.
To bring it back,
as much as you hate that, you know, it's like,
yeah, to bring it back to Peter Green, that's one of the things Ainsley Dunbar, who hasn't he played with as a guitarist, right? He said that every guitarist he played with the exception of Peter Green, which is a pretty big exception, considering his breadth of guitarist, that they'd go home, practice it, so it'd be the same lick on the same song every night. Because he's, you know,
right.
As he said, to paraphrase, they couldn't cope with improvising. And he said he only played with Peter for 9 months, but they did, you know, some of the same songs, but he always did a different solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think
you
Hugh makes a good point here. We've got a generation of guitar robots, and that seems to be the thing. And you know, social media is a great thing, folks. It gives you an opportunity to have an audience, and that's great. You know, for a lot of reasons and a lot of topics. But I agree with you, and I'm probably going to say something that may be upsetting to some people who are watching it or watching the show now or on replay. You know, you watch these 6-year-old kids, these 7-year-old kids playing blues licks, and technically they're great, but I have no interest, guys, in listening to more than 30 seconds because no disrespect to the technique that these young people have, but where's the substance to back the music up? Where's the life experience? Where's the grit? Where's the reality? Where's the hard knocks? And Todd, you know, the 3 people turning up to a gig when you think there's going to be 30 people, you know, and having to play in front of 3.
That's
you know,
a real lesson.
you know, we've all done that, you know. Yeah. So come back in 20 years' time, and then a lot of us will watch you. Case in point, Derek Trucks. You know, Derek Trucks, you know, he's a young guy, and he's playing these outstanding Layla licks with the Allman Brothers when he's a young guy, and we all realise that he's a great talent. But then, you know, he's developed over the years to the point now where he's one of the greatest, one of the greatest living guitar players.
No, and I'll take it a step further as far as, you know, a generation of robots. When you go see concerts now, they play with a computer, so it's almost, you know, just short of lip syncing, and you're doing the same. And so there is no realm for improvisation. And I can tell you, on November 12th, there won't be a computer on that stage.
Oh, really? We can't. Oh, well, that's good to know, because I was going to bring my laptop, but okay, forget it then.
Well, they'll be computers, but they're effects pedals.
Right.
I'm going to talk about another thing too, guys, while we're talking about the young people, you know, being robots and developing a technique that will be great later on. Again, this could be contentious, but I've got to say it, you know, these girls who can't play, and they've got things hanging out of them, and they're playing a riff, and they're not even playing it. And I'm sitting there, you know, and this comes up on your news feed, and it's like, what's going on here? You know, and they've got 2 million subscribers, Todd.
Right.
And
Well,
they can't
it's funny
play,
you're
Todd.
Yeah, it's funny you're bringing this up because we were just talking about this, a friend of mine, and the other day, and there's a girl, and I'm not naming any names, I'm not putting anybody down, but like you said, she's got millions of subscribers, and she's decent, but she's basically half naked when she's playing her, you know, and somebody put down there, she's okay, but she doesn't have all of these likes for her playing. And it's like, exactly, you know, but then that's a big thing on YouTube right now too. It's kind of, I don't know. It's sad.
But what's really interesting, being a content creator on YouTube, guys, that I want to share with you. So obviously, once we reached 1,000 subscribers, YouTube are compelled, I suppose, in one way to push a channel. And they certainly did that for us, where we picked up a lot of subscribers last year. But, you know, what YouTube does with these videos and these content creators that Todd's talking about, they just push them to the point where it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
Another generation of robot clones.
Yep. I mean, that's what I tell
there's
the
the
guys
controversy.
with the number 12 thing. Bring your guitar and a wah-wah pedal.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Don't knock the wah-wah pedal, Bob.
I love wah-wah pedal. Almost as much as Ebo.
I'll tell you how dedicated I am.
I'm sorry, Curtis. I just want to read that comment there. YouTube would never have produced BB. He's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, Curtis.
Oh no, I was just going to kind of make a joke because showing you how dedicated I am for this upcoming show.
Oh no.
You know, I have my 1967 Clyde McCoy wah-wah pedal, and I go to practice the other day, and the damn thing doesn't work. Something inside, I think the original pot got stuck or something. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And no one knows how to work on these things, or everyone's afraid to because they're worth like a fortune, you know. So I talked to a few people, no one can fix it or wants to do it. I'm like, okay, great. You know, what the hell with it. So I just got to go buy a new like reproduction of an old one, you know, so that I can do the show. Anyway, so that, and then I had the
hang on, I'm crying.
Wait. Well, you know, please. And then, you know, I've got my original EP3 Echoplex, and of course the tape got all jumbled up. It's like, okay, the hell with that. Now I got to buy some digital thing, some Strymon digital.
God, help me out, man.
So that I could, I've been so like the original cool stuff back from the '60s, all blows up on you, and then you know you have modern things that work and recreate those sounds. I'm all about. I just wanted to plug in straight into something and an old amp and do all that. I like doing, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way.
Well, I know Bob and I were talking about this just when we were talking on the phone a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him I saw on YouTube there was a guy explaining like how to get the Peter Green tone, and he's showing, and he's got just racks and racks and racks of effects, and I'm just like, okay, it's like, first of all, that stuff didn't even exist when Fleetwood Mac was recorded with, but even if it's like, that's not what they were doing. What?
I know, it's funny.
It's like,
Todd, if you can get a Peter Green tone with a Les Paul type guitar, a Blues Breaker type amp or a Fender amp and a reverb pedal, you're doing well.
Yeah, right.
There you go. That's all you need.
But it's funny because like we're talking about kids that don't know anybody better see that, and they're like, you know, Mom, I need this computer and all that. It's like, oh my God. It's like, no, you don't. I don't know, it's bad.
And speaking of which, I don't know if we saw this before, but I got to thank Todd for this. Todd writes for Buddy Guys magazine, in Chicago, and he did a nice spread on the book and Fleetwood Mac and Jeff and myself. And thank you, Todd.
Oh, you're welcome. No, that was great. I'm glad we got that.
Checks in the mail, dude. Checks in the mail.
Well done, Todd. Nice, great.
But it's really nice. And there's actually a picture of Todd and Jeff and I at Jeff Studios. If I can get it here. Whoops.
Oh, hold on, Bob. Sorry, I should have presented you. Hold on, mate. Give me a second.
Sure. Ah,
There we go.
can't see it too well. Oops, sorry. There we go.
Yeah. No, that was great. I was glad we got that in there, and that was very cool. We were able to do that one. Yeah, it's pretty cool in general. Just to, I mean, everyone sitting here and then some, all the people we've met. It's like really is through, that because of that book. I mean, I remember over a year ago hearing it was going to come out, and I remember reaching out to Jeff and sending him an email and just saying, hey, who I am and can't wait for the book. And it's pretty mind-boggling to think over a year later, all the
which is why we're doing the show in November. It will be almost a year since it's released in the States.
Well, I was going to say coming up on a year. I said that wrong. But so many great new friends and people you've met through all because of that book. It's pretty amazing.
I don't know if you remember, Andrew, Todd was married at Chess Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were the first. Sugar Blue got married there in 2005. I think we got married there in 2002. So we were the first ones that, it was pretty wild. We set the actual studio room up right where all those recordings were done. And
Oh, you were upstairs?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Yeah, right. We had the whole setup, just like you do at a wedding, walk down the aisle, which basically meant walk across the studio floor. It was very cool. Yeah.
That's how it came to be that Todd reached out to Jeff because he, it was a special event, special invitation. And, Jeff caved and invited Todd.
Well, and I can't believe I missed Jeff's birthday. I'm usually good at remembering birthday. I don't know how I missed that one.
He's very secretive about it.
Yeah, right. We don't count after 80. You don't count anymore. You just say thanks and.
But Jeff has been going through his. Jeff has been going through his apartment, and he's discovered a lot of old pictures. And there's a picture that I'm going to bring up. It's on my phone, Jeff, so don't get mad. Jeff has done pictures not just of Chuck Berry, Muddy Waters, Duke Ellington, Nelson Algren.
Well, why don't you
list
tell me
goes on and I
show?
can't even remember all the jazz guys he's taken pictures of. But there's one picture I want to show if I can get it on my phone. And Jeff, you know which one I'm talking about, probably.
You should have some little interlude music going.
So yeah, this is anticipation.
Oh yeah. Well,
I'd say yeah. So Sissy Spacek.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell that story, Mr. Lowenthal?
Well, it's kind of just a gentle story. When I worked for Newsweek, I flew to a town called. I didn't fly to the town. I flew into Dallas. Then I had to drive to her hometown where she still lived with part of the time with her family, a town called Quitman, Texas. And, Texas is so big. I figured it was an hour drive, and I think I was driving about 3 hours, and I got stopped by a Texas Ranger who said, you were swerving out there. And I said, look, I'm just trying to get to Quitman. So he said, okay, it's up ahead there, and just be careful driving. And I called the guy at the motel to say I'm going to be a little late. And he said, okay, I'm the mayor of Quitman. So you're going to have the mayor staying here to let you into your room. So it was a small town. And this is right when the movie Carrie came out, the original Carrie. And I had not seen it yet, but she was getting a lot of stardom.
A lot of recognition.
After having, right. And by the way, when I got back, I told my wife, we better go see this movie. And it's a little shocking to see somebody you just met and kind of had a date with, just riding bicycles around Quitman, to see this girl about 20 feet high and half nude in, during it, which is the final scene of Carrie.
Right.
I forgot where we were going. Oh, yeah. So, and I did the pictures I needed to do of her, but they let me stay an extra couple of days. And her husband flew back to Hollywood. She was at that time a very regular person who said a really thing that made me think how truthful she was. She said, "My goal in life is to make enough money so Jack and I don't have to work anymore." Of course, she's still working.
Yeah, she still is.
But she was delightful. And when this movie came out, people couldn't see it in the town because the movie theater closed. They had to go to the next town over to see it.
Wow.
He's got stories.
She's a lovely person.
Do you still get a Christmas card from her?
I never got a Christmas card. Okay. Oh, that's another point. Listen, I was talking to a friend of mine who became a correspondent for Newsweek in LA. And I said, "What have you learned?" He said, "Well, I've learned something that somebody who already worked there told me." He said, "You're going to go to parties and you're going to photograph stars and they're going to be so nice to you. They're going to kiss you goodbye and tell you what a great job you've done and so forth. And then you'll be waiting to see if you're going to be invited to their other parties. And those invitations will never arrive." And he said, "The reason for that is the stars are not your friends."
Wow.
Nice.
And he's right.
Curtis witnessed that every time he handed a guitar to Rick Nielsen. Sorry, Curtis. I had to go there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, Rick can be a little surly at times.
Yeah, we can't say in a public channel, Andrew, what he said to Curtis every single time he handed him a guitar. And see, when did Rick get a guitar? Every single song. So
Yeah.
Right.
it was basically don't screw up.
And can I say thank you to Randy? Thank you.
Randy, my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy? Yes, I know Randy well. I knew he was coming on tonight. Thanks for joining, Randy.
Cheers, Randy.
Yeah, we also had a nice review of the book in Blues Blast magazine last month too. So
yeah, I saw that. That was real nice.
It's really nice interview. And our event is being promoted all over the place. I mean, I even promoted it through ARP for Jeff. AARP, you know, this
Well,
if you're
wait,
a senior
but
citizen.
I get that too, you know. So
Oh, sorry, Curtis.
fantastic magazine.
So, Todd, Andrew, Curtis has actually played Greenie.
Yeah.
So
You know, that's another thing. I'll throw that in right away because
yeah, go ahead.
there's all people go back and forth. You know, oh, the tone only comes from Peter Green. Well, the licks come from Peter Green, the soul maybe, and the vibrato and things like that, and the feeling. But that guitar sounds exactly the same, unplugged, acoustically. When I played that at the shop, I would bend a note, hold up, and go, "Ooh!" Every guitar has its own vibrations. It's whatever it's called. I'm trying to remember the natural harmonics, and you can tell, you can feel it. The same as when I owned Michael Schenker's V that he had on his first few albums, and I would play it, and it sounds exactly the same acoustically. Little buzz because the frets were really worn down. Well, Peter Green's, Greenie sound exactly the same. Now, obviously, through an amp, it'll get really nasally, and you'll get that mid-range out of tone sound. But the guitar has that same feel and sound. You can tell. You can just tell right away. You can hear it. The guitar will sound the same acoustically. A really cool, good sounding, unique guitar. It absolutely will. And I know that because I've owned so many vintage instruments and everything. And I always say that when I was working at Hamer and we'd come through maybe a batch of a certain model, made sense to do like 20 at a time, do a batch, do 20, 25, instead of constantly changing things. It makes it much more complicated. And so they would come through my area and I'd be setting them up, set one up, do another one. Then one would come through. I'd go, oh my God, listen to that. Listen to the natural harmonics of the guitar. This thing is really something special because every piece of wood is completely different. It has.
I remember when Paul was trying to sell a guitar to Elvis Costello, and he handed it back, and Paul's like, "You don't want to buy it?" He goes, "I can't." He goes, "Why?" Because it sounds too good.
I love it.
But yeah, I mean that was fun to play that guitar. I didn't play it through an amp, but
I'm sure you find that true,
I
Todd.
just wanted to hold it and see what it was like, and bend a few notes and see what it sounded like, if it's sustained, and that sort of thing, and how I wanted to see if there were dead spots in certain areas. I would play the thing, or if it would just continue to ring, or they'd go into a harmonic or something. So it was fun.
So did Greenie, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's the player, not the guitar. I know Bob and I talk about this all the time, and I completely agree. But that being said, just to geek out for a little bit, did you feel like Greenie was a special guitar when you played it? I mean, did it stand out to you?
It didn't stand out that way because I played a lot of Sunbursts and I owned a really nice one. I owned all sorts of those things. So, but it had that sound. It had that. I could say, okay, Peter Green is playing this. He'd play this note. He'd do this. He'd do a little run in minor here. Oh, okay, look at that. Yeah, that's how that worked. So it's that sound. I would say, yeah, it was a good sound. It was unique because of the way it was wired. So through an amp, you get that really unique sound. That's why. That was what was really unique about that one. Because normally that's not what a Les Paul sounded like.
Well, it's weird too, because I know when you see, and again, it doesn't really make a difference. I'm just geeking out here. But when you see old clips of Gary Moore, there was a time when he had actually flipped the pickup back the right way. And then he had apparently flipped it back, the way that Peter had it. So I'm just curious, did you notice that when you played it?
It's not just that, the magnet was reversed too.
Right.
So he had different polarity. So he had reversed the magnet too. I'm trying to remember. When we had it, the pickup was reversed when it was there at the shop. That's a funny story. I don't know if you heard that before, because he came there. We made him some Hamers, and he was there. Right. We were giving him a guitar. We were doing some stuff with him and specs on something we were making. And then he said, we started talking about Peter Green and the guitar. And, oh, you have that? And he goes, yeah. Did you guys want to play that or see it? He goes, it's in my trunk. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like, yeah.
Wow.
What are you doing? What do you mean? Yeah, you leave it out in the car. Maybe someone will.
Wow.
I know. Pretty weird, huh? He was kind of a weird dude.
He also, Todd, I understand, and Curtis, you can correct me if I'm incorrect, but unlike Peter Green, Gary Moore used really heavy gauge strings on that guitar.
Super heavy, and I couldn't stand it. It's like 11 to 50 almost. It was just ridiculous. So
wow.
He has a real heavy attack. He's totally different. Great guitar player.
Correct.
He's unique. He's got a phenomenal technique. Really only plays with two fingers. But
one of the things that Dave Spector said that he loved about Peter Green is the ability that Peter can play almost like an acoustic guitar, and then all of a sudden way up to that volume.
Yeah, right.
He said that's so hard to do.
Well, see, he did it the right way. Like we were saying before, we didn't have all these other videos and tablature and all this. We were developing our ears back then. When he was doing that in the mid 60s, he's developing his ear and really getting a feel. And so turning it down so he can really, even acoustically, I have a feeling he played a lot just with the thing not even plugged in. And then Correct. You're really working on your technique of how you pick and how you bend the string and hold it for your vibrato and that sort of thing. So he learned the right way and developed his ear. So he became, this phenomenal player by the time you're years.
Yeah, look at that black and white thing where Peter Green and Danny Kerwin, all of 16 years old, are not plugged in.
Right.
And Danny's got a vibrato just like
Right.
that a whammy bar would do.
Yeah. So you take that and then you put it through the amp that you want at the right volume, and there you go. You're off to the races,
And so this was all going on at, I'm sorry, the factory back then was Arlington Heights, you said, right?
This is
Yep.
Arlington Heights, right?
Yep.
This is Arlington Heights.
Okay.
Which, that sort of stuff happened all the time. The people are always coming in to have stuff worked on, or, I always say, like, when they came to the shop, they wanted to meet us and see us. We were there. I don't mean heroes, but they really appreciated and wanted to meet us and see how we did all this stuff and what we were doing. It wasn't like we were a bunch of fans, going crazy. Hey, can you sign this? And, they wanted to meet us. They would say that exactly. Remember, they'd come in the setup booth, I'd be working, and sometimes sit down and jam and play. And they say, we want to meet you and talk about this. What do you, And so they treated us differently. So yeah, that was
Jeff. Say hi to Amy.
Oh, Amy's
Right.
here. We know Amy.
Is she going to come to our show?
She said she was. See you in November.
Oh, awesome. It's funny too. I just got a message from Connie, my wife, that popped up saying because she heard me talk about Elvis Costello, or you mentioned him, that I think I told Bob that he was at our wedding at Chess.
Wow.
It was funny. He was just walking around that day in the, it's like, oh wow, there's Elvis Costello just walking around Chess Records. And we were like having a wedding. And then it's funny because the night before that, supposedly George Harrison was in
no
there.
kidding.
And the lady kept saying, he said he might stop back by today. And I'm like, all right, if George Harrison shows up at our wedding, I'm gonna have to be like, hold on a second. But he never came. He never came. But Elvis Costello was there.
Well, Curtis Meisner's new friend because of the book is Bruce Thomas now.
Right.
Well, I talk to him a little differently as a musician. I want to, get a little under the hood out there.
Actually, why don't you bring that up, Curtis?
I love you. You're fantastic. I'm trying to ask things which to me are really interesting.
Why don't you bring that up? One of the things one of his friends put on YouTube is his isolated bass lines, and Curtis.
Oh yeah, I went through all those and looked at all of them. It's phenomenal. He's such a great. I wish those albums were remastered and it was the bass way out front and the guitar was way down, because they're just incredible bass lines. He's a phenomenal player. He's just it's just amazing. Talk about just improvising, just brilliant stuff. So anyway,
he auditioned for Fleetwood Mac too. Did you know that, Todd?
You know what? I did not know that. Wow, very cool.
He had been playing. He told me that I think he had been playing bass for a year and a half. And Peter said, not yet, you'll get there.
So this was during the time when he had to use Bob Running.
Correct.
And
then on the Peter Barden's album, which is not such a great album, but it's fantastic bass playing and guitar playing, which was after he left Fleetwood Mac. Bruce, played with him.
Wow.
On that record, which is crazy. It's just like listening to the Green Monolishi. If you listen to the end of that song, and I'm a production type guy and, audio guy, he mixes his guitar way down, but if you really listen, he's playing like jazz licks.
Wow.
It's crazy. And Kerwin, to me, and I think I've said this before, sorry to repeat myself, but he's a sadder story than Peter Green. He does not get enough credit.
No, it's so sad. It is.
He had an angelic, he had a McCartney-esque voice, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody, you correct me, but I don't think there's too many people that can rival his vibrato.
No.
I mean, Todd, you and I have talked about it. Everybody thinks that's the best slide playing Jeremy ever did on Albatross.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna
we always say it's because of that video. Everybody, to this as we speak, I'm
what
sure
Andrew was saying about computers and
video.
YouTube.
Yes,
because it's on YouTube. That means Jeremy Spencer was playing a slide on a Flying V, and he wasn't even on the record.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should talk a little bit about that, a little about the gig, because we're going to start rehearsals actually
You're starting tomorrow.
Sunday with just like a core group. It's just going to be Chris Herman, Rob Herman, and myself, and we're going to get together. And we may not even plug in instruments just to start working out some of the new ones and refresh our memory and clean up some of the other ones that we were doing before at Space, and see what we remember and how we can do things differently. Because this will be a little different, without having keyboards behind us. That changes things, because then we have to figure out, well, then how do we get chords behind this, or do we do something different, or so there's certain things but we're just going to start doing that, and then do another rehearsal, I think on the 24th, with add the 24th. Drums, and I'm not sure if we're having any.
And then Todd's set too is going to be a little different for Todd, because Chris Herman's going to sit in on a couple Danny Kerwin songs.
Yeah, that's going to be great. We're doing, because Bob and I talked about this as we were preparing. Well, we're still preparing for the gig, but as we were brainstorming about the gig when it first was coming to be, that we wanted the Danny representation to be there. I mean, I'm as big of a Peter nut as anybody is, but as we were saying earlier, I think a lot of people to this day hear that stuff and they just think, oh, it's Greenie, and it's like, no, this is Danny playing a lot of this stuff. And even after Peter left Mac, some of that stuff he did, as a songwriter, was great. So we're going to be doing like Dust. I always loved that tune. Woman of 1,000 Years, just to kind of possibly tossing Dragonfly around. I always loved that tune. I mean, yeah, Danny was such a talent, and not to take away from Peter, because I love Peter.
No,
I think sometimes
that's a good point, Todd, because Curtis can tell you that when we did Sunny Side of Heaven, people came up to Curtis as well as me and said, "What song is that?"
Yeah, both of my neighbors on each side of our house, who are not familiar with that period and those songs, loved that better than anything else. They said it was just absolutely beautiful. They loved that song. And what is that? And so that they become new fans, and they get a fan and learn about that. And so that's fantastic. I'm really glad we did that. And of course we're doing that one again. So
and Tina, to your question about Richard doing a book on the Fleetwood Mac up through the Kerwin years, I told him that's what he's got to get better at. That's why he's got to get better, because we talked about that, and he's definitely looking into that. So we wish Richard well so he can do that, and also so he can come to the concert in November. That should be Richard and Lee's goal.
Yes.
So we'd love to have him there.
But yeah, a lot of those songs that Danny, like Dust and all that, Connie and I are going to be doing an acoustic set, and those songs just completely lend themselves to that very, very well. It's just perfect stuff to do on an acoustic guitar. But just what a voice, what a songwriter. And it's a shame because he often, I think to this day, gets overshadowed by Peter, which understandably so. I mean, who does it when they're working with somebody like that? But it's a shame that they're both on that. Peter and Danny, they're a team,
And one of the songs we're kicking around, I'm not sure we're doing it, but Curtis can comment on this, is a song Like It This Way. And Curtis called me this week and was like, "Where's the studio version?"
Right. I didn't realize that there is none.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what, Bob? And I said to you something about it sped up. I don't think it's sped up. It's just simply the way the amp was set and the guitar was set. Because I recreated that playing my Strat. So if we do that, I would play that on Strat. So hopefully we will be able to do that song. We should be able to.
Hopefully you won't break a string.
But well, that's why we need to do it as the last song. So we don't repeat the Danny Kerwin break a string thing.
It would make it more authentic, though.
Can't play that song first and then go, oh gosh, we're gonna have no roadies to change.
But you think about that in that video from Norway, that he breaks a string, he doesn't miss a beat.
No, not really. Yeah.
Not a beat. He just pulls it out of the way and
But-
keeps going.
But Bob, you weren't supposed to tell anyone we were doing that song. That was a
Oh, sorry. Did I take your glory away there, Curtis?
We're supposed that's a
When I
secret.
go up there and cut your string with the knife?
Yeah, here's one in
It's
honor of
kinda-
Danny Kerwin, and Bob cuts the string. Oh God, here we go.
It's kind of amazing talking about that video from Norway because it again back to the YouTube thing. It's got so many great things about it too. Obviously, what we're doing right now, but then that you can just go on and watch that video. I mean, we all I think know. Going years back, I remember a guy giving me a VHS tape of it, and I like met him somewhere in a parking lot. And here's $20, and here's oh, this is really it. And he would go home and put it in, be like, oh my God. And it was like this footage that you were like, really? I've never seen this before. Now it's just right there on YouTube.
Well, it's
It's
probably
great.
one of the only ways that all of us has saw Peter Green play live.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Exactly. It's like I think like I used to take road trips to find those videos and stuff, and it's like, God, now you just go on YouTube and it's all right there. But I don't know.
Now,
You know,
and I love to do Only You by Danny. I mean, that's a song that he did on a solo album that he played, another song that he only played live with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah,
Just like Peter Green's Sandy Mary about his girlfriend. I mean, that was never committed to the studio either. So, I mean, that's what made Fleetwood Mac live shows back then so interesting, because they did BB King songs, they did Albert King songs,
Yep.
they did different stuff that they didn't do on the record,
You know,
Yep.
and,
Right.
like Dragonfly.
right.
And there was a song. I'm just kidding, Todd. There was a song that I wanted to do on stage with Todd, join him, but he said, "No, I do not want you on stage with me." Just joking.
I think that was me.
Hey, Steve Anderson.
I totally wish, like I said, if it was an 8-hour gig, I would love.
Right, I know.
Well,
I
to,
mean,
to,
I've been there.
to digress a little bit, unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed away earlier this year, but we did inherit some musical instruments from Carol's parents, and one of them is a 1907 cornet that's in perfect
Wow.
working order, which
Wow.
I'm bringing over to Jeff, who just dropped off here,
You shocked
tomorrow,
him.
because we're going to have him play the national anthem before the gig starts. because
Yes.
Jeff is a trumpet player.
And reveille or something, you know.
Yeah, a reveille to wake the crowd up.
Oh my lord.
But no, that would have been great. I totally understood, Todd. We, people going back and forth. It's too much. Between the two bands, we've got a lot of material, and we're wasting a lot of time if it's like, okay, wait, I'll go up, drag an amp up. It doesn't really work.
Right. Well, yeah, because even when Connie and I were putting our set list together, I have like all these songs, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, we got 30 minutes. Like, we've got enough songs here for like a 3-hour set. This isn't happening.
Right. If we were doing a couple of full sets and we had time for all that, you could do different things. But yeah,
Right.
One of these days.
Oh yeah. I would love that. Absolutely.
Well, I had to kick out a couple songs that Curtis recommended because we're not doing Metallica, Curtis. I kept telling you that.
But I was going to play Greenie. I was going to borrow it from him.
Well, say you got to now because of the Greenie connection. Yeah.
That's funny.
So, and we will have question and answers. We will be, Mr. Lowenthal will be autographing books.
So tell everyone how that's going to work in case they're not familiar. You guys are going to speak first.
Well, it's at Reggie's on the south side of Chicago, right around the corner from Chess Studios. Hopefully the weather permits. Jeff and I will go on stage and ask if there are any questions. Todd and Connie are going to come up, do their thing. Chris Herman's going to sit on I think 2 or 3 back-to-back songs with Todd and Connie. And then in the intermission between Todd and the Blues Crusaders coming on, Jeff and I will be signing books in the green room, Jeff. and then Blues Crusaders will come on and we'll sign books at the end of the night too.
Nice.
Wow.
Perfect.
And the other thing we want to make sure people, aside from please review us on Amazon, even if you didn't buy it there, they'll let you review it. The other thing is that Andrew will be so kind to put up Jeff Lowenthal's email address. So if you want an actual print from the original negative
Yeah.
from 1969, a la what Mr. Walton has gotten, and Curtis has purchased some too. You
right
can get
there.
a real photo signed by the legendary Lowenthal.
See, I know I have one. Yeah, it's it's beautiful.
Hey, and everyone's got to buy another copy of the book because you can never have too many copies of this book. That's how good
No,
it is.
you're right. You can't.
How good it is, you know.
But hey, Curtis, to Jeff's legendary status, what happened when you were up at your cabin in the northern woods of Wisconsin the other month when you were looking on the bookshelf?
Oh, right. Yeah. The article that was written in, what was that magazine? They did a story on Jeff.
Oh, New City.
New City.
And, yeah, Chicago Magazine.
We had a couple
Oh, wow.
photographs that Jeff had taken that were on back cover of certain books by who, Jeff? Who were those?
Saul Bellow,
right, of course. So I said, and I thought right away, wait a second, my dad was a big fan, and we had a bunch of books up at our cabin, and I thought, I'm positive I've seen that book. I've seen, and I didn't even know, that back then I didn't know Jeff way before then. So when I found that out and read that article, and we had talked, I think we went out to lunch, and then so when we went back up there, really went over the bookcase. Oh, here's the book we're talking. And I'm pulling out thinking, I hope this is the version. Pull it out. There's the back cover. There's the photograph with Jeff Lowenthal above it. So
that's great.
Very cool. So I had two books up there with the photographs on the back cover, and there it is, Jeff Lowenthal. I'm thinking my dad would have gone crazy to know this if he were still alive, to have met Jeff and all. It's just amazing. So what a weird connection there that I had a book up there.
Well, there's even a weirder connection with Todd and the original book that Jeff wrote. Didn't you find a copy, Jeff?
Yeah, I did have. Yes, I did have a copy that I brought that to space to have Jeff sign that too. Yeah, it's mind-boggling when stuff like that happens because you're just going through old books.
What book was that, Jeff?
Is that the theater photography book?
Yes. Yeah.
I've been looking for one of those. I can't find one. And if they occasionally show up on eBay or something, they're gone right away. So it's in big demand, Jeff.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, no, this is, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's great that especially Bob putting his foot on the gas to get this book out because it's exposed Jeff more to the world too, who absolutely should be. So it's just awesome. The whole thing is great.
We've talked almost every day for the past 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
When he doesn't call me, I think he's sick.
But those
2 times I was.
It's true. That's true.
I think
same here, Jeff. We've both gone through some health crises this year.
It's kind of mind-boggling because all of us have been brought together, and we've talked about this before, by the fact that we were sitting there looking with magnifying glasses at the pictures. When I was a kid with those Fleetwood Mac albums, you'd be like, well, look at that. That's Peter. And then we tried to so when I heard this book was coming out, I was like, whoa.
I know. It's incredible. That's what we were doing. We were looking, they're upside down, they're little, and I could try to figure out what's in there, what equipment, what guitars. It was just crazy. Then to see them, blown up like that, it's just amazing.
I didn't mean to interrupt. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I try to say this, and anytime we're speaking publicly, or obviously we're speaking very publicly now, that this book wouldn't exist without Paul Hamer and Bob, because Paul was the first person to call my attention to the importance of that session. And he said, you know, I made guitars, and all my people there were interested in that session, and they're still interested in it. And then we went to see, who was it? Jeremy, right?
Jeremy. Mm-hmm.
At Fitzgerald's, and he introduced me to Bob. And Bob said, you should do a book. And I said, nah, can't do that. Not interested. And he asked me a few more times, and finally I said, yes, if you find me a publisher. And he surprised me by finding a publisher. So I had to do the book then.
But Jeff,
Wow.
was it
But without those,
let me just say,
without
did Bob,
those two guys,
right? I want to say that
your audio
when
is
Bob
cutting
first
out.
started,
Go
when
ahead.
Bob and Paul first started talking to you, or with Paul, did they ask you, you know, obviously you were the photographer of that session, and then it must have been a shock when you said, well, I still have all the original negatives. They still exist.
No, you know, I wouldn't throw out negatives on any music that I photographed.
But that they're
So
still there
it
and
wasn't
viable 50
surprising
years
to me
later.
because,
know.
well, I'd licensed those pictures to a number of books that came out, including more recent Mick Fleetwood, the biography of Peter that came out after he passed away. But I'd never throw negatives out. But the only time I take them out would be to license, to scan them and license them to a book or publication.
Well,
So
to your
it's not
point
like
too,
they were
Kurt.
missing.
But to your point too, Curtis, we did have them digitized and cleaned up, and you know, things like that before they went to publishing. So we did the best we could, or Jeff did the best he could, and the lab did, which I think they did a great job, because I mean those pictures are almost 55 years old.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. It's incredible. And they look perfect, blown up now, printed off the negatives. I mean, I love the ones that I got from you. It's those were my prizes.
We had high-end scans done. They're called drum scans, and those can only be done on machines that are no longer made, haven't been made for years. So, and it also requires a very talented operator. You can't just put it in the machine and it comes out great. So there are limited number. There are only 2 places in Chicago that do that kind of scan, and one is kind of an amateur operation. The other is a very high-end operation called Print Lab, and
they did a great job.
We don't know how long they're going to be doing that. Yeah, they did.
Right.
And it's funny because I was a friend of Paul Natkins for years, but I hadn't seen him in about 5 years. And I was climbing up the stairs in this industrial building to get to the 3rd floor to visit this place to have a negative scan. And I got up and said, I got to sit down and rest, because it was a lot of stairs going up there. And a couple of minutes later, the door opens and another out-of-breath photographer comes in, and it's Paul Natkin, who I haven't seen for years, getting the scans done for his book, which came out around the time our book did. So we've been good friends and seen each other a lot at a Chinese restaurant we all liked. And,
I love that place.
Now Robert goes there.
And by the way, Paul Natkin is a Chicago-based photographer who's done. I guarantee you've seen his pictures. He toured with the Stones. I mean, early cheap. I mean, I don't know anybody that he hasn't. Anybody that came through Chicago, he's taken a picture of.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of people.
Yeah, he did all the famous stuff. Last night, Stevie Ray Vaughan played in Alpine Valley.
Right.
All those pictures you see are Paul Natkin. Yeah, he did all of those.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That's true. That's true.
Great photographer, great guy.
Hey, Todd, I wanted to ask you something.
Let's say it together. 1, 2, ready? Great guy. 1, 2, 3. Great guy.
Great
guy.
Great guy. All right.
Jeff's going to loop that for Paul.
So Todd, do you have any idea what guitars you're going to be playing? Do you have any idea what you're going to bring to the show, or considering the type of music we're doing, or do you use different guitars depending on the type of music, or what do you?
I have some of them here, actually. That's a coincidence you asked, but no, I'll probably use for the acoustic stuff. I have a Martin D28 that I like a lot. Nice. I use that at pretty much all of my shows. As far as electric goes, I might use this is a 58 reissue.
Okay.
So it's a Les Paul, but it's actually a 2008. No, I'm sorry, 2007 model that the custom shop did. So it's based on its 58 specs.
Is that a collector's choice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it's got like the VOS finish on it, and it's the neck and everything just feels. So I'll probably use that for like the electric stuff that night. But I have like so much stuff. Just say like this is an original 57 Junior.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That's
we're not playing any mountain songs.
It's been around the block. I speak of Leslie West when you see this. Which is funny because these have gone up so much in price, and it's like, God, when I bought this, it was next to nothing, because at one time you could get the juniors for next to nothing, but not anymore.
What are you going to play, Curtis?
That's a good question, because I have to play the Strat for some of the songs to get certain chord sounds and to get certain lead sounds. And then I'm not sure. I may be playing an Explorer. I may be, who knows? I have a number of choices. I have to kind of figure it out after we start.
Well, I was going to ask you, are you going to be playing Hamer stuff, or?
I might play my Explorer. It's a Carina. It's number one of the reissues we did in 1995 or something like that. It's all Carina. So that I may do that. I may, I'm not really sure.
And Jeff's going to play Coronet, the Star Spangled Banner, and the Coronet that I'm going to show him tomorrow.
Right.
That Coronet from 1907, you're going to play Star Spangled Banner, right, Jeff?
Sure.
That sounded definite.
Wasn't that instead of being our sound guy?
So what was Curtis? What was that? What was the Les Paul you were playing at Space?
That was a collector's choice. 58. Who's the guitar player that was based on his version? I can't remember. Anyway, that belonged to Pete Flynn, and those are cream coil pickups that he actually makes. These incredible pickups. If you don't know this guy, Pete Flynn, well, he plays in like he's a great repairman. He does everything, but he plays in Tom Petty tribute band, and he's played in other bands. I've known him for years. He used to have Flynn Music. He and his brother Mike, and I bought stuff from him years ago, and I borrowed that guitar from him.
Okay. Got great tone out of that, didn't he, Todd?
Yeah, for sure.
Get some of those sounds. I don't know if I want to bug him to borrow it again, but you never know. We'll see, because I've got a lot of different guitars. I may do something different, so we'll see. I'm not sure.
Fantastic.
The interview is going to.
Hey, folks, if you got any questions for Bob and Jeff, Todd and Curtis, this is probably the best time for you to ask. We're going to wind down the show soon. We're coming up to an hour and 18 minutes. It's always a fun time hanging out with these guys, and time goes fast. But
it does. It feels like it's been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I gotta say, Jeff and I want a hearty congratulations to you, Simon, and Brad on where you've come since the first time we talked, which was a year and a half or 2 years ago. About how many subscribers and how many views you have. So congratulations on a job very well done.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's a collective effort, because we've got there's a lot of other people involved as well. On the Van Halen side of things, we've got John Conklin. We had Alan Garber, who was in the chat earlier before. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's a Led Zeppelin nut, and we did a show on Led Zeppelin, and that just went viral for our standards. So you know, and that's what we're about, you know. So we're always about getting people on and talking and sharing channels and information. So again, if you've watched us on a replay and you've got to an hour and 20 minutes and you haven't subscribed to Todd, if you haven't subscribed to Curtis and Jeff and Bob's social media links, please do. I invite you to do that, because that's the best thing you can do. It takes a second, but your subscription helps the channel. You know, we want to help Todd get to 1,000. If you can subscribe.
Matter of fact,
we
Todd's
would
got a show coming up on the 17th, is it, Todd?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I have a few shows coming up.
The one I was talking about was your the table talk with your favorite guitarist. Or...
Oh yeah. September 17th, I'll be doing basically what we're doing here now, just kind of going live. And I'm pretty new to the YouTube thing. Facebook I've been on forever, but a little while ago, everybody was like, you should start doing a YouTube channel. There's so many guys doing them. So I did, and I'm just having fun with it and hoping to watch it grow. But salute to Andrew, because he's given me a lot of advice, and I've asked him about, because again,
has most of it been good advice?
So yes, so a lot of times I'll write to him and be like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing here. Help me. And he's always so. Thank you to Andrew for helping me out with everything. I appreciate it.
Thank you too,
no pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. And I'm not going to say that I'm an expert in anything that we do on this channel, but we've learnt a couple of things over the course of running the channel for a few years. And you know, YouTube is a great forum. It's a great place. You know, look at us. We're hanging out here now and we're sharing our experiences and our histories and our opinions and thoughts. That's fantastic. But YouTube isn't fair. They're not fair in how they promote channels, you know. So this is why you have to go and find little sneaky ways on how to do that. And certainly sharing your link on Facebook groups and other social media links, Todd and Bob, Curtis and Jeff, is always a key thing. And asking other people to do that too. Getting other people to do that helps as well, because, you know, you can't do it yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to spend hours and hours and hours on social media doing it. So,
right.
But yeah. No, we're happy to do that, Todd. And, you know, we want to see people like you who are authentic, real, the real deal, get the recognition that you deserve on social media without having to resort to getting half naked and playing your guitar.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because nobody wants to see that.
Nobody wants to see that.
Although we're going to have Jeff wearing go-go boots at the November 12th. So if you can come to Chicago, you can see Jeff wearing go-go boots. He's going to do a little dance. You know, Curtis will be there. Todd.
I don't believe it. Yeah.
We have a drummer that I think Todd would agree is just extraordinary, Chris Abgeron. He's
unbelievable for sure. Yeah. Yes.
So
Fantastic.
It should be a lot of fun. And you know, if you want to come to Chicago and you bring the book and you already have it, you want it autographed, bring it. And if you have the Fleetwood Mac and Chicago album, be like Curtis Meisner and be one of the first to have Jeff Lowenthal autograph that.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll include all those links too. Again, folks, if you're watching on replay, sorry to sound like a record. If you want to know where these links are and how to get hold of Bob, they'll all be included here. I'll make sure that these gentlemen pass all those on to me, and within the next half hour, I'll certainly edit it to make sure that it's on the description. And we want to say thanks to Bob, also to the people in the chat. You know, people that you guys have met in real life. You know, the Tinas, the Amys, you know, the Randys who have supported the channel as well, and what we do by sharing our links and talking about the music that we like on their social media platforms as well. You know, the only way that we can do it, Todd and Bob, is to do it organically. That's the only way that we can do it. The only way that we can build what we've got, because, you know, again, I don't want to sound like I've got an axe to grind against YouTube, but yeah, you gotta be something else to get promoted, and we'll never do that.
Right. No, it's frustrating because, like you said, sometimes you put, as you know, a lot of time into putting videos together or something, and it's like, wow, and then somebody comes on half naked and they get 10 million views in 30 seconds, and it's like, I don't understand. But
well, you're keeping it genuine. Just to go back to the jam, that's what we're doing. I mean, aside from Curtis's effect pedals, we're gonna be organic too.
Should we tell everyone, though, the secret that we're actually going to perform the whole thing naked? Everybody. It was going to be a surprise, but Todd said no, so I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I think I'm going to call in sick.
Me too.
That's what happens when you tour Europe, Curtis. You come back with these weird ideas. That's what happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, we're gonna try to take it on the road and take it to New Zealand and Australia too. It's been suggested by Paul Hamer that we start a tour, Jeff and I. So
there you go.
Why not?
I think we should go over and open up, do a few dates with
Cat Squirrel.
With
Mike Vernon's new band.
Mike Vernon, open up for him. Since he won't come over here.
He won't travel anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't like to fly.
All right, folks.
Thank you so
thanks
much,
for hanging
Andrew.
out with us. Thank you for hanging out with us, folks. It's been fantastic, and I'll do my best with this video too, guys. I'll share it, and I'll tag you guys as we always do on Facebook groups, so that you guys can see what we're doing. It's always about sharing, and I mean that sincerely, please. That's what our channel's about. Our channel's here to promote our friends, and again, Curtis, Jeff, Todd, and Bob, if you guys have anything that you want to promote, anything that you want to talk about, anything you want to do, we can do that. That's what friends are for. That's the whole idea with social media. It's about doing that because, again, I don't want to sound like a record. It's the only way that we can grow our audience and get people to appreciate the music, the fine work, the fine book, the fine photos, the interviews, the hard work that you guys have gone through to produce this deserves recognition.
Thank you. And thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And hello to Simon and Brad, and hope they're doing well as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Haven't seen them in a while, so I'll miss those guys. Yeah.
I'll pass on my regards. We'll be doing something anyway towards the end of the year. You guys know that we go on at the end of the year and we go live for about 10 hours. So I'm sure you guys will all be jumping on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not far away.
So you can play what, 2 Grateful Dead songs during that time?
Yeah.
Why not?
Do you know what? We're going to give Jeff the final word because he just looks so cool. So, Jeff, we're going to give you the final word, please.
Well, I just want to wish you all a pleasant Christmas, New Year's, and all those other holidays, Hanukkah. And
Rosh Hashanah.
Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Halloween. Yeah.
Happy belated
Halloween,
birthday, Mr.
yes.
Lowenthal.
Thank you.
85.
I
Keep it
have
going.
to be honest. My birthday was in April, so you were a little late, but thank you for your good thought.
I talked to you on your birthday.
Hello?
Give me a hard time.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Todd, look forward to
That's
seeing you
Every
in,
day is my birthday.
a few weeks. And as soon as we get the whole set list done and whatever, we'll all get together.
Yes.
At least on the phone or somewhere, or on the the computer or something, and go
Thanks,
over.
guys.
No, thanks, Curtis. I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you. Yep.
Sounds good. Andrew, thank you so much.
Yes, thanks,
No problem.
Andrew. You're
Bye,
the
everybody.
best.
Rock and roll.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.